Security officials are starting to close off and blockade streets around the U.S. Capitol in anticipation of a trucker convoy that could make its way to Washington. Fox News has learned that fencing will go up around the Capitol perimeter ahead of President Biden's State of the Union speech March 1st. At the same time, a top Democratic pollster tells Axios the party needs to start attacking the so-called MAGA faction. Quote, "That's a much better foil than just talking about picking one obscure congressional leader that nobody will know anyway, or a future presidential nominee that nobody will know anyway. Trump is not on the ballot, but these MAGA faction candidates are." Kayleigh McEnany, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you just laid out some very important context here. As we're hearing that there could be a freedom convoy in the United States with truckers, you lay out the Axios piece, Emily, which says President Biden must have a foil. In other words, the guy in the basement needs a bad guy. No one voted for President Biden because they thought he had mental acuity. They thought he had grand plans and a vision for the nation. We didn't really even know his plan because he was in the basement most of the time. People voted on Basement Boy because they just decided they didn't like mean tweets. So this is very important context to say, you know, in 2016, he had Trump as a foil. Right now, he doesn't have that. And I really hope he does not try to make these U.S. truckers the bad guy, because that will be disastrous. I don't want to see our country go the way of Ottawa, where I follow the Ottawa police who say, you know, hey, there's going to be financial repercussions for these protesters. We're going to find you. You're at an unlawful protest, and just merely your presence, you could be arrested. I really hope we don't get to that place in the United States.
That's right. It's a terrifying thought. And Brian, part of the argument as well is that by creating that MAGA candidate foil, it's essentially taking the focus up and out from the inward foil that the Democratic Party is currently facing, which is, as Kayleigh points out, an incompetent president that has failed on every level. And there's so much civil war going on within the Democratic Party as they argue over what should be the priorities to this party, for this country, for its American citizens, that they're trying to shift the blame elsewhere. Brian.
Yeah, they don't need to invent a foil. Reality is giving them all sorts of foils. It's called inflation. It's called education policy. It's called the border. There's all sorts of problems for them to solve. The problem for the Democrats is they're looking to spin somebody to blame instead of dealing with the wreckage they've created on these policies. You look at the Freedom Convoy, President Biden, all he sees there is an opportunity to create another enemy, to create another foil instead of listening. Listen to these guys. They are the backbone of moving goods around this country. That is a problem America needs solved. Maybe we should listen to their concerns. Maybe the president should get ahead and act a little bit on them. And just maybe, if he did that, we'd start to address some supply chain issues. We'd start to address some inflation issues. He wouldn't have to create foils because you'd actually have some good news for once in his administration.
And Leslie, part of the sort of frightening developments that are happening in Canada that, as Kayleigh was talking about, we would hopefully never see here in the United States, but it's maybe starting to be married, and that's the financial deplatforming. So David Sachs argues financial deplatforming has arrived with the use of emergency powers there in Canada, saying, quote, "Last summer," he said, "I warned readers of common sense that financial deplatforming would be the next wave of online censorship. Big tech companies like PayPal were already working with left-wing groups," he argues, like the ADL and SPLC, to define lists of individuals and groups who should be denied service. These deplorables would be deplatformed, debanked, and eventually denied access to the modern economy altogether as punishment for their unacceptable views. That prediction has become reality. And here, Leslie, as you know, the Supreme Court has ruled that your political fundraising, your political donor, how you choose to spend your money politically is a form of free speech. But there we are seeing that worst prediction, that worst nightmare coming true. Could it happen here?
I don't think so, because you just mentioned free speech. That doesn't cross the border, by the way. Canada doesn't have the First Amendment that we do, which is one of the reasons America is the great country that it is. But when it comes to these private companies, First Amendment doesn't extend to them. They're allowed to do blocking, and if that includes financial blocking, they are allowed that. I don't think it's all doom and gloom, and I want to say very quickly onto the point of a foil, because I am a Democrat. I don't think we need a foil. Voters care about, time and time again, poll after poll after poll, CCC. Cash, COVID, crime. That's what they care about. And don't faint. I always tell Democrats, take a page out of the Republican GOP playbook, and that is there are tons of Republicans, nearly half or more of the party, that really didn't like Donald Trump. But when he was the candidate, that party united and got behind them and worked together. And there's too much fragmentation in my party right now, and they should unite more, and they should focus on the issues and not Donald Trump or anybody else to come up as the bad guy. And history has shown me in recent history, a gubernatorial race in Virginia is one example of that. Terry McAuliffe just, harped on Trump, and he lost.
Right. I wish your party would listen to you more and voters like you, Leslie. Although maybe not, because it's going to be such a red wave.
I'm not important enough, guys, I guess.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.